This week on And You Don't Stop, we continue our conversation with the organizers of the Third World for Black Power actions in Oakland, California. And we have more words and music with Mass Bass on Rooftop Live.
Following the call of that weekend of shutting things down, we wanted to shut down the federal building and let this nation know that, you know, they can't continue functioning while our people are dying, not only in the streets of Oakland and in the streets in California, but also throughout the world and in our different nations.
We wanted to also reach our communities to let them know that as Palestinians, as Arabs, as Chicanas, as Filipinos, that we want to shut down the federal building for Black Power, to raise that level of awareness in our own communities and then mobilize them. So we also have a strategy of movement building. This isn't about an action for an action's sake. You know, we took action, we took direct action, but we're in it for the long run, as we have been historically with our Black comrades.
It was really beautiful to see how it unfolded. We had the white allies lock down the back. And it was strategic that we had all like the folks of color and third world people be up in the front just to really show and highlight who the faces are in terms of folks being impacted by this global policing. The other thing is that cultural work and also our people's history and the way we navigate in our particular spaces really got articulated through the program. So we had danza, we had people march in. It also put the police on guard and kind of postured our power as a third world movement, that once you incorporate culture into the mix, they get even more and more scared of our songs.
We are educated, beautiful,
independent, queer,
empowered, talented,
resilient, revolutionaries.
And it's not as if, you know, the unity was easy. So it was built on a history of working together over years. We can't assume that our lives and our struggles are automatically connected. We actually have to struggle together to figure out what are those intersection points, what are the unities we can find, what are the differences, and how do we work through those to build a strong anti-imperialist movement.
I feel like we're also trying to push the dialogue and be real about, you know, the anti-Black sentiment that exists within our communities and be able to push our communities past that and be able to link our collective struggles and understand that it's not about, you know, one Black person that's criminalized or 5 Black people that are criminalized, but understanding the larger criminalization of our people and being able to highlight how this is a larger system that is impacting all of our communities in so many ways, historically and today.
There's a lot of like anti-Black sentiment from my people, especially a lot of the elders who have the immigrant kind of perspective of struggling here. There's a lot of work internally within our community that we need to do in terms of politicizing folks.
You know, for the Arab community specifically, like we're the liquor store owners in Oakland. Our folks also have a different type of interaction with law enforcement on a regular basis. The friendly cops who come in to try to create relationships with the store owners and workers. And for us, some of that work is also unpacking the relationship between law enforcement here and the state of Israel, because there's a very specific relationship in terms of how Israel actually trains cops, you know? So when we start to talk about these types of things or how they share technology, that clicks with folks. And so we've organized around militarization and surveillance and policing in a way that makes those connections and brings out our folks. It's not that difficult when you do it that way, right? But in isolation, it can be a lot of work and it can be quite complicated.
The struggle that we have specifically with articulating simply the Black Lives Matter hashtag is that there's a lot of interpersonal racism, especially from like elders and immigrants, right? So to automatically go to that is like missing a piece. So we need to really talk about how the links of our struggles and the links of our resistance to really articulate that we're all connected and impacted by this system.
The piece to it is that for Arabs and Muslims in this country, we're used. The war on terror and the increased surveillance, the increased repression because of the war on terror is used to further criminalize Black and brown people. We know that. Our repression and our oppression now in this country is used to further oppress people that have been historically oppressed and marginalized in this country. So it's actually a duty and responsibility that we speak up about these things and make these connections. And you know, it's not only a duty because of the responsibility we have, but it's also, we know they're sharing strategies, they're sharing technology, they have shared interests. What we see in the US is not US specific. There aren't borders of repression, there aren't borders to racism, there isn't a border to the war making and warmongering. So it's also important that we are clear about that, so we are united, right? And we share strategies, and we share practices, and we learn from our movements so that we can better confront the state head on.
Tell us how, you know, what y'all role has been in participating in some of the recent, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Oakland, I can't even say recent because it feels like y'all are always, you know, the Bay Area is always representing. But tell us about, you know what I mean, about the last 6 months, how y'all been getting down and doing some of the political work out here.
Well, definitely the Bay Area has a history of multicultural, multi-community solidarity, and intergenerational. Like, we have elders that have been down with one another, that have passed on those stories and that, you know, those lessons to us in terms of our generation. Most recently with the Black Lives Matter movement, it was actually really important for us to really be, in terms of solidarity, really be out there. One thing that I could think about was, I always tell the story of the Philippine-American War, late 1800s, early 1900s. You know, the U.S. Army, the U.S. military was in the Philippines, and there were Black American soldiers that actually defected and joined the Philippine insurgents. And nobody knows about that story, but to me, when I hear Black Lives Matter, I'm like, yeah, you know, that was, you know, back then, those black soldiers were saying Filipinos' lives matter, because a lot of the same media stuff was going on in terms of projecting the Philippines as a savage country that the U.S. needed to save, and you see the media today in terms of how black community, black lives are viewed, and so we wanted to definitely, you know, kind of continue that solidarity with our presence out there on the streets.
You know, here in the Bay, just like, you know, New York, we have, you know, people of color, working class white folks all around doing a lot of good local work, but also connecting it to the liberation struggles around the world, whether it's Palestine, whether it's Africa or Asia, Latin America, what's happening in Chile or Venezuela. And we're just trying to build this international solidarity and connect our liberation movements. Personally, one major project that we're working on is supporting these indigenous schools in Mindanao, in the southern Philippines. Their liberation struggles, basically just like what's happening in Chiapas with indigenous resistance, fighting, you know, extractive large corporations like mining and logging. So these indigenous communities are on the forefront of defending their land, right? And, you know, it's very similar to what's happening here, right, with our struggles with the native struggle here, the First Nations, and, you know, just making those bridges and those links is what we're trying to do.
Mass bass in your face. Ha! 1, 2. Live from the town, rooftop. This is for all of my kasamas up in Caloocan, para maghanap tayo yung tunay ng kalayaan, yung tunay ng karapatan ng mamamayan. We know about the drama happening in Malacanang. The whole world sees it. We're afraid of the truth. They tell us pray to Jesus while they aim and they shoot. Cold concealing the evidence and taking the loot. Getting on the television and making excuses. Ruthless politics, no shame, not an inch. Got 99%, but they want all of it. Grabbing everything like the arms of an octopus. All of this from behind the doors of their offices. Kinda obvious, we've already known. Our minds, our labor, that's all that we own. We can't no longer postpone. People ready for some combat. Who ready to take our lives back? Where your hands at? Worker man him sweating out of factory. Boss money collect all the candy. Government no care about what's happening. Long as they keep making that money. Peasant money till for the family. But he don't even own his own land, see. President no care about what's happening. Long as they keep making that money. We are the workers, the peasants, the students, the women, the Muslims and Christians, the indigenous children, the fisherman fishing, drama of the jeepney, the OCW in Saudi, Italy, all of us connected cause we all want change. Ain't asking for a lot, just a couple little things, little justice, little peace, little decent living wage, little food on the plate, little hope for better days in this maze of society. We are not anonymous, no wonder why the government and military target us, follow us. Feels like we always been shouting ever since 2000, it's been like 2000 and a when they went and organized in the sweatshop, mobilized with the chance they could get shot. When will the killing stop? Is there an end to it? Cause our tax dollars pay for each last bullet. Working on them sweating out their factory. Boss money collect all the candy. Government not care about what's happening. Long as they keep making that money. Peasant money till for the family. But he don't even own his own land, see. President not care about what's happening. Long as they keep making that. He nasty. From Aquino to Obama, puppet to the puppeteer, the masking and the numbers that are underwear, the bullets in the clip, the one who weren't there, foreign investments, who wants to be a millionaire? People dying, they act like they don't even care, not even a word when another person disappears. I think something smells fishy here. Do the numbers, yo, I think that it's becoming clear. Not even saying where to come from. Noi, GMA, pretty much the same as that homeboy. Cause old boy walking around with his hands bloody. Mass murder paid for by my tax money. How am I supposed to live with that? What they started way back, does it end with this track from wherever you at? Northwest to the Bay, NYC to LA, saying junk VFA. Worker man him sweating out the factory. Boss money collect all the candy. Government not care about what's happening. Long as they keep making that money. Present money till for the family. But he don't even own his own land. President not care about what's happening.